Welcome back to another episode of Box Talk. I'm Coach DT. We got Coach Spence. We got Coach Ben. We got Coach Connor. All right, episode 3, we're here with some new questions. I've got a couple pre-written questions that the coaches are going to talk about, and then I put a little poll on Instagram and put out there if there was any questions that athletes wanted us to answer, so we'll check those at the end of the episode. So every time I do Box Talk, I'm going to post that on Instagram. If you got a question you want answered, drop it in the comments. All right, guys, question 1 here is, while athletes are in season, most people will continue to lift weights and focus on strength. But a lot of athletes will neglect or forget about the speed and agility aspect in season. Why is speed training so important in season?
It starts with the off season, right? Where we're trying to build up our strength, we're trying to build up our speed before we start the season, right? And then we start playing our actual sport, and it's like we forget about all that work that we were just doing. So we go into the weight room, we kind of go through the motions through the season, but really I think you should look at your season as a holistic approach of how you're going to maintain all that work that you just put in the off season, right? We try to peak for the season. How can we maintain those levels to stay healthy, fast, and strong throughout the season? So I think looking at all 3 of those while you're still training in season is very important.
And I think nobody actually, everyone's focused on, injury prevention, right, during the season, which I think is super important. But I also think that more injuries occur during the season because all of a sudden you stop focusing on what you were focusing on, right? You're no longer focusing on your strength training as much. You're no longer sprinting at 100% nearly as often because you're tired and you're trying to recover and get through the season. It's like recovery is important, but you got to stick to your guns because that's what's kept you healthy and kept you strong.
Right. So do you think that athletes should still be doing pretty much all the same movements and exercises that they were doing in the off season then?
Yeah, I don't think that it needs to be at the same intensity and load as often, right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, your training is supposed to supplement your field performance.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put everything into your training and then have you suffer on the field or the court because of your training. So as long as it's continuing to supplement and to build and to accelerate your on-field performance, I think you need to maintain as much as you can, which I think is different for every athlete based on how hard they were training.
Definitely.
Leading
into the season.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that I know that if you don't run full speed as fast as you can, full speed sprints every week, you pretty much have to pay a toll. Yeah. And with your position or sport, if it doesn't require you to sprint full speed, then you will lose speed. Your cardio will get worse. You're going to be more out of breath. So, we all play flag football. If we don't play for a week, we all feel it because after 5 to 7 days, you start to decline, and it's really hard to get back. So it's really up to you. Is it worth it to not do it, and then you have to pay that toll when you do start training again, or do you want to make it easy when you start training again and already be at a maintained level? So I believe that at least once or twice a week you should be still sprinting full speed, regardless of your position or sport.
And how many teams in season, no matter your sport, week 1 through 5, look completely different towards the end of the season, right? Because they're when they start the season powerful, explosive, strong, fast. Then you give them a couple months, whether that's 2 months, 3 month season, depending on your sport, and all of a sudden you're not the same team that you once were, right? So season, really it ends up being about who can stay healthy the longest and who can maintain as much speed, power, and strength as they can throughout the season.
Yeah. And you don't want to be playing catch up. By the end of the year, do you want to play catch up after your sport's done, or do you want to be better for the next year?
Yeah, you don't make gains during the season.
Yeah.
So it's if you, like you said, you're paying a toll. If you pay that toll early and you continue to pay it and you continue to lose and get diminishing returns all season long, you're not going to make up. You're not going to get faster all of a sudden and get stronger all of a sudden. So you got to hold on to whatever you can until the next offseason.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think it's silly that people think that, you're doing those movements in your sport, you're going to be fine. You don't need to do that outside. Just get in the weight room. That's all you need to do. It's no, that would, like you said earlier, that would make you faster. You would already get way faster, way better just from doing your sport. That's not how it works. And like Ben said, you have to be sprinting at full speed, but it's the same thing with all the other things. It's okay, if in your sport you don't necessarily shuffle as fast as you can because you don't need to because you're at a good speed, well, if you need to be faster at shuffling, you need to keep repeating that. You need to keep repeating the change in direction and things like that. So yes, you need to continue to do that. But on the other side of it, it's all in like, you know, load management, right? So if you're not recovering, like we've talked about before, if you don't recover, then yeah, maybe don't do that. If you don't recover at all, if you're not stretching, if you're not eating, if you're not sleeping, if you're not foam rolling, if you're not icing, if you're not doing all the things to help you recover from your workouts, from your games, from anything, like, yeah, don't do it because you're gonna suffer anyway. So if all you can do is rest because you don't do any of the extra stuff to actually recover, then yeah, don't do it. But if you actually take care of your body and you actually recover and you actually ice and eat and sleep, like, yeah, throw in that extra training. Get faster, get better during the season, get more conditioned, because just playing your game is not gonna make you conditioned. And what have we said before? Conditioning is not speed training, but speed training is conditioning. So do the speed training to stay conditioned to be able to end your season on a high note instead of being like, oh man, I'm trying to survive the end of the season.
Right. And like, for example, a soccer player, right, who plays all season long, they're like, I don't need to do speed training, I run 6 miles a game. And it's like, yeah, but if you look at like the elite, the Messis, the Ronaldos, the elite soccer players, they're walking or jogging 80% of the game.
Yep.
And then they have a couple moments where they sprint and they blow by people. Well, you think those couple moments in every game are what made them elitely fast and faster than all the other pros? Like, definitely not. And if that was the case, then everyone would be crazy fast. And
Your sport alone is not good enough to improve your speed by itself. It's not.
Right. Especially in season when you're just slowly getting more tired, more sore, more fatigued. Right. It's like it's diminishing returns at some point.
Right.
All right. Here we go. Question number 2. We're going to talk about. This is something that I don't know. We had a lot of high schoolers graduate in this past week, and so something that's kind of been tugging on my heart is, what's one piece of advice that you would give to a high school senior, not someone that's graduated, but now us being, you know, old heads now, you know, it's 30 over here.
29.
230.
Relax. You know, what's a piece of advice that you would give someone going into their senior year of sport that, you know, you wish you knew when you were going into your senior year?
Man, I could say like 20 different things. So going into their senior year, what's the number one piece of advice?
Yeah, what's something that
I think Spence already said it. Your recovery management. Like, as high schoolers, we think we're invincible and we think we can get away with all these things. But if you look at the guys that are actually making progress during the season or making the most progress during the off season, it's the guys and the girls that can recover properly to put themselves in the best position to keep making gains. So my number one piece of advice is, do more work on your recovery. Not do more work in the weight room, do more work on your recovery. That would be my number one advice.
I'm laughing because as you're in your head, you're like, high schoolers, they think they're invincible. And I'm looking at Ben. Ben's got this serious face in my head. I know Ben's thinking, I am invincible.
I am. I'm immortal.
I would say to just dedicate one day a week to just chilling out. Like, I know it's high school and you're gonna be dating and you're gonna be hanging out and you're gonna be playing sports, and you just need to allocate one day to just not really do too much. Like, you still need to be happy and you really need that rest day from school, sports, whatever. Like, just take a day, chill out. There's plenty of life left. Relax and enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you only get one senior year. So we talk about it mostly from like an athletic and a training standpoint, but that's same, like Ben's kind of saying, like from a social aspect, like there's the senior sunsets, right? The senior sunrises, there's all the fun like senior year activities. And I think as athletes, we're so dedicated and focused, we kind of miss out on those sometimes.
Yep.
And it is important because you realize high school is one time, senior year is one time, and for a lot of people that's like a peak in life, and it's like a place where you're on top. And so I think that people need to value a little bit more, just like embracing and enjoying that senior year of high school, for sure.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone the other day, but from the time you start, like, you know, kindergarten to the time you graduate high school is the slowest part of your life. It feels like it's never ending, but as soon as you graduate, life's gonna hit you fast, and it moves fast and fast and fast. And it moves extra fast after you get out of high school, after you get out of college, as soon as you get married, as soon as you have a kid. Every step, life moves faster.
How long have you been out of high school now?
I've been out of high school for, gosh dang, now 11 years now. Woo! 11 years I've been out of high school, but
Old timer.
it felt like those first 18 years of my life took forever. And when I got married, my life was like, oh my gosh, 3 or 4 years just passed, and I just had a kid, and he's already 2.5, and I feel like he was just born like 2 months ago. So life moves so quick once you get out of high school. So like you said, enjoy it. For the athletes, like take a step back, especially if you're not going to go play at the next level. If you know you're not going to play at the next level, or if you don't want to play at the next level, just take a step back and recognize and enjoy it. Take in the moments. Appreciate your teammates and your friends, and appreciate your abilities at this point, and just have fun. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I played at the next level. I got to play sports in college, but still to this day, like getting together with my high school friends, like my football buddies or whatever, like my senior year group, like being able to get together with them, like we still talk and reminisce on the old times and the good times. You know what I mean? And so like, talk to anybody that's been out of high school for a while, and they're like, man, I wish I would have, given a little bit more effort. I wish I would have cared a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so my biggest advice is just like have no regrets, and like, especially that final year, go all in.
All in, man.
All in on training, all in on practice, all in on your effort, all in with your friends. Like, just enjoy the moment.
Yep. You only get one chance to do it.
Yeah, it's all about that management, right? Because like Ben said, I really like what Ben said. Just like make sure you have that time of not like putting too much pressure on yourself and like kind of relaxing. But on those other days, it's time to work. It's time to, kind of keep moving and make those memories and get better.
And we're gonna go on Instagram real quick, and we're gonna check out and see what kind of questions that we've been asked by our athletes. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun, right? Let's see here. We got a couple of questions. Here's a good one. How big are Coach Ben and Coach Connor's arms? Asking for a friend.
Ben is way bigger. Ben has way bigger biceps, and we're not flexing because his are way better than mine. My biceps suck.
Do we have any dimensions?
I have no idea.
I think I'm around 20.
Around 20?
The last time I checked,
Oh yeah, I actually remember now. Last time I measured, I was 21.
before I went on a muscle building plan, I was at like 18 point something.
So we don't want to have a side-by-side bicep flex real
No.
quick for the camera?
No.
No? Okay, we'll move on to the next question now. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. How do you prevent getting burnt out? Or what do you do once you become burnt out?
I take with Connor.
No, go ahead.
I take
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I take my day of relaxing. Like I take it very seriously as training itself. Like I make sure that I mitigate my stress by having a day where I have no responsibilities or very minimal responsibilities. Very relaxed day. Perhaps like go on a walk or go swimming or something like that. It's really hard to not stay active, but when you have just one day to just completely deload, it really makes Monday amazing. So it's really important to take that one day to not get burnt out.
For sure. And I think, adding on to Ben, I think sometimes that can be extremely tough just because there's so much stuff going on when you're in school, even if you're in middle school, not just talking to high schoolers, but there's so much, outside activities that, there's always stuff going on. So sometimes we can get so sucked into our sport, and especially now so that, sports are year round. I mean, almost every sport is year round. And it can get hard to get into a good routine and cycle of maybe taking time off or realizing why you're playing the game. Like, do you really love what you're doing? And for me, like, there was no feeling of ever getting burnt out when I was playing because I love the game so much. Other sports, to be honest, yeah. Like, I got burnt out of baseball quick. For sure. I got burnt out of other things real quick because I didn't love them. Like track and field, I didn't love it. I knew it was good for me, but I didn't love it, so I got burnt out really fast. Football, what your main sport is, you really shouldn't feel like you're getting burnt out. And if you are, and because you've been doing it for so long, then that's a conversation that you have to have with you and your family, and honestly yourself, on if you want to keep doing it.
I think that's it. Really depends on like the age bracket we're talking about,
for sure,
right?
yeah.
Like for youth athletes, if they're getting burnt out, that's why it's so important to play multiple sports so you don't get burnt out. But if you're not doing multiple sports, doing something like dynamic training where you're not just doing baseball, you're not just doing soccer, like some other form of training that you can have fun and enjoy.
Right.
If you're in high school, kind of like we talked about with the senior mindset, like actually doing high school activities, like going out and hanging out with friends and still doing things that aren't just your sport, even if you are locked in and dedicated. And then for athletes that want to go to the next level, you really have to love sport if you want to play in college. Because what I can tell you is everyone has that feeling. They own you. Once they put money on the table, they tell you when to wake up and they tell you when to go to bed. So you have to make sure that you love your sport. It's what you want to do because they own you for the next 4 years. So if you love it, like Connor was saying, then you shouldn't feel like you're necessarily getting burnt out. But if you don't really love it and you just do it because you're good at it, that might be a tough conversation where you either have to grind through it and push through it, or it might be something you have to really evaluate what you want.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, you kind of have to have a conversation with yourself. Why are you burnt out? Like, are you just tired? Like, do you need to just rest? Like, do you feel like you just need that day of rest that you want to do? Like, do you feel like you haven't seen your friends? Do you feel like you haven't seen your family? Like, do you like miss playing video games? Like, what is it? Why do you feel burnt out? Like, you have to analyze that and figure that out. Is it just like, hey, I don't love the game anymore? Find that out, okay? Is it, oh man, I haven't got to hang out with my friends in forever because I'm constantly doing something? Go do that. Like, figure out why you're getting burnt out. It's fine to take a small break if you're like, hey, I need to take a day or two off of training to do some of the things that I miss doing because I'm feeling like all I'm doing is this. I love my sport. I love playing. I don't want to stop playing, but I'm feeling like I'm missing out on a few things. Go do those things. Go do those things and have fun and hang out with your friends. If you're on a crazy like cut or like whatever it is, like go eat the food that you want to eat. Don't worry about it. Like, have a good time, figure out what you need for yourself, and then go do that. And then it'll probably help you get out of that burnt out stage.
Yeah, you got to know yourself.
No, yeah, for sure know yourself and be honest with yourself. Like, don't just, and with your friends and with your family, like you have to be honest. Like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Like let that be validated and figure it out from there. So don't just be like, oh, well, that's kind of like weak. I don't want to say like, oh, I just like want to play video games, so I'm going to stop training today. Or like, oh, I just want to eat a pizza, so I'm not going to, like, I don't want to just say that, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, no, just do the things that you want to do for a little bit and then get back on the grind. It's not a big deal.
Wanting to eat pizza does not mean you're burnt out.
Connor's like, I eat pizza every single day.
Like you will truly know when you're burnt out. Like if you're honestly, if you're like questioning it, usually that just means you've been doing a lot. You need to maybe take a step back to go 2 steps forward. But at the end of the day, if you really love what you're doing, you're not going to feel like that all the time. You won't. You really won't.
Hey, Boo, you got anything?
No.
No, you're good.
I mean, I just like even if you're not burned out or you don't feel like you're burning out, you still need that. You still take that day.
For sure.
Like, don't wait until you're.
If you're proactive, you don't have to be reactive, right? So if you're proactive on it, you might not have to actually get people like that. Be proactive, not reactive. It's a wrap. No, guys, that's all we got this week. Box Talk, episode 3. That's a wrap.
Love it.
And music.
Awesome.
Box Talk.